Hello. In this video, we are going to see about data structures, and this is what your first topic in the first unit. In the first unit, you are going to study about what is data structure, what are different types of data structures, what are the operations we can do with data structures, and few examples about data structures you are going to study. And before we see what is data structure, let us see what is a data. As everyone knows, data is no piece of information, or we can say that data is set of values. But guys, please remember that data is not singular; it's a plural form of data. When we say data, it's a collection of, it's a set of things. So which says it's a plural. This it's not a single this. So there is something called datum, which is singular for data. This data, as I told, it's a set of values or piece of information. And don't get confused like no, what is data and what is information. Data is only piece of information, which doesn't give the complete information. The set of values. Next, let us see what is data items. Data item is which refers to a single unit of value. Data is set of values, but data item is that is a single unit of value, which is nothing but your data. Now in data structure, what we do is we are going to study about how this data, how this piece of information, how this set of values we can organize, we can store it, we can retrieve it, we can access it, we can manipulate. So this study is known as data structures. So I repeat, the definition. Now every time in university exam they ask for 3 to 4 marks, so please remember what is data structure, which is nothing but if you follow the textbook definition, it says which is logical or mathematical model of particular organization of data is known as data structures. Or another way we can say that is a study of data, how data is organized, how data can be accessed, how data can be retrieved. So this study is nothing but data structures. So when we study about data structures, we should remember about entities. So entity is nothing but it's an attribute or it's a property which is assigned with every values. I told I told data is a set of values. So every set of values have certain attributes. So this we call it as entity. For example, if you take name, name is having certain values, certain properties. If you look at this, if you take name, name can be anything. It's left to you. You can give, you can replace name with anything. I have got a name. You have got a name. So this is a property. This attribute. Same if you take age. Age can be any numeric value. Sex can be it's a character value. SSN or USN can be a combination of your no integer. Or we call it as numeric and non-numeric values. So every value have certain properties. So we call it as entity. So next is now how this data structure is classified. So normally this is classified into two categories. One is primitive data structure. So primitive is nothing but this is no built from your basic data types like integer. Everyone, I hope everyone knows what is basic data types. We have something called integers, we have characters, so we have floating point types. So primitive data structures are fundamental data types, as I told, basic data types, which are supported by programming language. Or another way you can say that these data types we can manipulate using your machine code or your programming language. That is primitive. Examples as I told, which is integer, real, character, boolean, everything is primitive data structures. And second one is non-primitive. Non-primitive is those data structures which are created using your primitive data structures. So please remember what is primitive. Integers, characters, boolean, real, everything is your primitive one. The data structures created using this primitive is known as non-primitive data structures. So for example, we have something called linked list. This you study in the first year. Then we have something called stacks. We have something called trees. We have something called graphs. Everything is non-primitive data structures. Next is uh, again this non-primitive is classified into two categories. First one is linear data structure and second one is non-linear data structure. So let us see what is this linear and what is non-linear. So this name says linear is nothing but it's a sequence. So data are stored one after the other, linear format. This is known as linear data structure. And what is non-linear? So data are not arranged in a sequence or linear fashion. So if you take linear one, our array is a linear data structure. Arrays we studied in the first year. So when we take an array of 10 elements, from first element to the last element, all the elements will be stored in a linear format. So this is linear data structure. I repeat, array is an example of linear data structure where the data is stored in a sequential format. Next is non-linear data structure, where no data is not stored in a linear format. Something like trees. You have studied trees. There is something called graphs where data is not stored in a sequential format. As I told, linear data structure array is an example. We have linked list. You have studied this in the first year. There is something called linked list. So linked list also, the first link is having address of second link. Second is having address of third link, if you remember that. So where the data is stored in a linear format. So let me conclude. Non-primitive data structure is again divided into two categories. One is linear data structure, other one is non-linear data structure. So next, let us see what is an array. Array, I hope everyone do remember this because you have studied this in the first year. So array is again a finite number of similar data. It's a collection of data, or it's a finite. When I say collection, that collection should be a finite one and similar data types. As you could see in the screen, look at an array called student, which consists of 6 students. Normally your array start from 0, but in the picture it start from 1. So some programming languages your array index start from 1, whereas in C and C++ your index start from 0. So please remember this. So I repeat, what is an array? Array is a collection of similar data items. So we have single dimensional arrays and two-dimensional arrays. So this is an example of two-dimensional arrays where uh, which is giving a chain of 28 stores. 28 stores information we have stored, and which is having 4 departments. So this is the way we store two-dimensional arrays. So I repeat, two-dimensional array is a collection of similar data elements where each element is referenced by two subscript. So the moment I said two-dimensional array, so please remember that which is having x and y coordinates. We call it as subscript. So if you look at this, the first one in the picture, which is having no subscript as 1 and 1, or which can be even 0 and 0 normally in C and C++. And if you see the second element, the first row, which is having 1 and 2. Again 1 and 3, 1 and 4. That is the first row. Again second row we have 2 and 1, 2 and 2, 2 and 3, and 2 and 4. So which is a collection of similar data elements where each element is referenced by two subscript. If you look at the first data in the column 2872, which is having a subscript as 1 and 1. So please remember this. Thank you. Have a nice day.